Hey, Heights Church family, Pastor Justin here, and it is a privilege to be with you. And we are diving into Hebrews and stories of faith. In fact, we've called this thread Risky Faith. And I get to share an idea out of this that's kind of a bunny trail because it's not necessarily a personal story of faith, but it's something that you may hear kicked around in society these days, and it's really the idea of worldview. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, worldview, what does that mean? It means the lens in which I view the world and how I interact with it and so on and so forth. Let me give you 5 questions that are probably the easiest way I know how to define a worldview. And I'm only going to address one today, and because it comes from this passage of Hebrews. But the 5 questions are this, is where do we come from? Everybody has an answer to this question, whether it's evolution and we're just all stardust, or whatever their answer is. We believe that there's a specific answer that I'm going to address. The other one is this, is what's wrong with us? We know biblically it's sin. Sin is what's broken in people. The next question is, question 3 is, how do we fix this mess? How do we correct the issue of sin? Well, that's Jesus in his death, burial, and resurrection, and his sacrifice for you and I. The next one is, what happens when I die? Well, we know if you're a Jesus follower, you get to go. He takes us into heaven, and we get to be with the Lord and see him face to face, which is amazing. And the last question is, what are the values and morals in which I live by? And those are kind of what consists of this idea of worldview. Well, when I'm thinking about faith, and we're talking about risky faith, I want to read to you this verse out of Hebrews chapter 11, and it's verse 3. And it is the answer to the first question that I asked, which is worldview, which is where do we come from? It says this, verse 3 says, by faith we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, that what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. Meaning, God is invisible. We can't see him in the same way that we see you and I, or you see me on this video, but it's by faith that we trust that he created everything by the word of his mouth. In fact, he didn't just create everything that's seen, he created it out of nothing. The Latin term for this is ex nihilo, means out of nothing, God created. And when you and I are talking about a Christian worldview or a biblical worldview, this book is our lens in which we view the nature of reality. And so for you and I, the question, where do we come from, is answered. It's by faith that you and I trust that God created everything out of nothing. Now, what does this have to do with my everyday life? Well, there are so many messages that bombard us on a regular basis from the world. And so leaning into faith and saying, you know what, God, I trust that your word says you created everything. That everything that I see, experience, taste, touch, even things I can't really understand like atoms, that you made that. And I trust you. And it's by faith that I lean into it. So my challenge for you today is lean into risky faith. Because we're going to get some great stories over this next week. But let your worldview be grounded in what God teaches us about his character, who he is, who we are, and the values in which we live by from this book. And the first one is simply that God created you and I for a purpose, which is to be in relationship with him. So I encourage you today, dive in deep to your relationship, have some great share time with God, spend some time talking to Jesus, spend some time reading this book, especially in the New Testament, read the Gospels. Heights, thanks for joining me today. God bless you. We'll see you next time.